Thank you, Forrest, for that cheery music on a dreary day. Welcome to this gathering hosted by the Unitarian Universalist Church of Bowling Green. Whether you are here in person or online, we are so glad that you are joining us. My name is Michelle Steiner, and I will be your service associate today. So that we may all be present with one another, please set your cell phone to silent. Thank you so much. We are a welcoming congregation. Whoever you are, however you identify, wherever you come from, whoever you love, you are welcome here. Our Sunday services are different each week so that we may honor and learn from a wide array of traditions and beliefs. Our speaker today on a video recording is Dr. Phill Lund. For Unitarian Universalists, the flaming chalice is a symbol of the light of learning and the love of our community. Gail is going to light that chalice for us today. As our congregation's chalice is lit, we are going to sing Rise Up, O Flame. Rise up, O flame. Kay will be doing our first reading.
A renewed hope for this world. Be it real or metaphor, whatever is in your backpack or your briefcase or your purse that you've brought into this sanctuary that is weighing you down, leave it behind. Whatever you are carrying that is keeping you distracted or caught up in shame or guilt or hopelessness, leave it behind. If you need it, it will be there when we're done. But for this hour, just let it go. Come into this place with open hearts. Come into this place with a soul that has remembered how to be tender again. Come into this place with a renewed hope for this world. Come into this place ready to build a world we've always been worthy of and have always dreamed of.
Our first hymn is number 1060 in the Teal hymnal. Please stand if you're willing and able.
This is a very strange hymn. I'm going to play it through for you once. I do not expect you to get it, but we're going to try, all right?
We'd like to make better known some things that we have decided as a congregation, our mission statement, our vision statement, and today we're going to recite together our covenant. These seem to be secrets that not everybody knows about. And I think they're very beautiful and very us. Do you have that on the slide, Matt? Okay, great. All right, here we go. We promise to live in harmony and civility with awareness, tolerance, acceptance, and celebration of our diversity. We commit ourselves to enthusiastic support of our fellowship and of the Unitarian Universalist tradition through our individual gifts and talents. Thank you. And now we will sing the children off to their classes. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of us surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. We will now have a few moments for meditation, reflection, and prayer. The singing bowl will lead us into silence. After the silence, we will sing the hymn, Breathe In, Breathe Out. You might remember it from last week. As mentioned earlier, Unitarian Universalists have a wide array of beliefs, and the speakers at our Sunday services come from many traditions. Here today on video to share his own thoughts is Dr. Phill Lund. He is a reverend with the Mid-America region of the UUA, of which we are a part, and he has been here, and he's a pretty swell guy. So I hope you enjoy what he has to say.
Weekly message of courage and compassion available at uua.org. Choosing to Connect by Priscilla Shumway. When we acknowledge that all life is sacred and that each act is an act of choice and therefore sacred, then life is a sacred dance lived continuously each moment. When we live at this level, we participate in the creation of a better world. Scott Cloud Lee. Every Saturday morning, my husband and I rise early and head off to volunteer at our local food bank. The food bank is supported by people from 28 different congregations, including our Unitarian church. After we set up, volunteers gather as our director reads a Bible passage and a prayer. As a UU and atheist, these prayers initially caused me discomfort. As I stood listening, all I heard were the things that I did not agree with. But by focusing on the things I disagreed with, I created a sense of separation of judgment between me and the others. Over 2 years, as my relationship with the other volunteers and the mission of the outreach has deepened, there has been a change in my relationship to these prayers. Now, during the prayer, I hear sentiments I agree with rather than those I disagree with. I agree that we all give our time, talent, and treasure to do this work. That the work we do is important in the lives of our clients. That we who volunteer feel called to do this work. But who or what is calling us? This is where the prayers and I diverge. The prayers suggest that we are called to do this work because God directs our life and calls us to it. But as an atheist, I feel called to do this work because of my belief that every act and choice I make can create a better world. While I may have little control over the larger world, I can help create a better world in my own neighborhood, one client, one connection at a time. Now, as I pray with my friends, I feel a deep sense of connection to them and the sacredness of this work we all feel called to do. I realize it is my actions and choices that determine my connection to others. Now, it no longer matters to me who or what is calling each of us, only that we show up in love and faith to do the work of creating a better world. I once heard, probably in seminary, that preachers often preach the sermon they themselves need to hear. I don't know how true this is for my colleagues, especially those who preach on a weekly basis, but lately I've been feeling like it really does apply to me. Unlike my colleagues who preach almost every week, I rarely need to come up with more than 2 or 3 sermons a year, which means I can choose topics that really interest me. What interests me now, and the topic of the last few sermons I've preached, is nothing less than the future of congregations, especially small Unitarian Universalist congregations. As someone who works almost exclusively with small UU congregations, their future, perhaps your congregation's future, is inextricably linked to my future. And I hope that by preaching sermons I need to hear means I might be preaching a sermon that you need to hear too. So, here's what's been on my mind and in my heart lately as we find ourselves in another church year, that long stretch of time between September and June, when congregations are traditionally the most active. I've heard from some of my fellow religious professionals who've made it through the last 2 pandemic-fraught years that preparing for this year felt a little like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic or fiddling while Rome is burning. I get that. Who among us isn't exhausted? I know I am. The things that helped me get through 2020 didn't work in 2021, and the strategies that made 2021 manageable weren't enough for 2022. And now I have to ask myself, what's left to get me through to 2023? Even more troubling, there's a part of me wondering, is it even worth it? Now, I'm a bit of an optimist. I tend to thrive on situations that offer opportunities to try something new. And if there's anything positive one could say about the pandemic, it has definitely been an opportunity to try new things. If the effect of COVID-19 on our society was the only thing we had to deal with right now, I probably would be able to manage. But it's more than COVID-19, isn't it? There are just so many heartbreaking things in our world today, I hesitate to even enumerate them. Unprecedented weather extremes caused by climate change, the embrace of fascism and authoritarianism by many of our fellow citizens, threats to democracy at home and around the world, the ongoing racial and economic injustice that has tainted our society from its beginnings, increased religious intolerance masquerading as freedom of belief, and attacks on reproductive justice and LGBTQ rights. It's enough to make even an optimist like me ask, why bother? Maybe we are just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic and fiddling while Rome is burning. So when I found myself giving in to this state of despondency, I searched the web to see if there was anything out there that could bring me a glimmer of hope. And I'm not just talking about some internet meme. I'm talking about something substantial, something that could make me really believe that it is indeed worth it. What I found are these words from Howard Zinn, the historian, playwright, philosopher, and socialist thinker who wrote A People's History of the United States. In his 2002 autobiography, You Can't Be Neutral on a Moving Train, Zinn wrote, "To be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. It is based on the fact that human history is a history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are so many, where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act, and at least the possibility of sending the spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act in however a small way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents, and to live now as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, is, in itself, a marvelous victory." When I first read this passage, I could almost feel the sense of hopelessness beginning to fade. These words are indeed substantial, far beyond some overly simplified internet meme. I found it especially encouraging that, as a historian, Zinn asserts that being hopeful in hard times is based on a fact, that human history is a history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, kindness. Now, Zinn's emphasis on human history reminded me of something else from my seminary days, the work of Unitarian theologian Henry Nelson Wyman. Before I go further, I need to say a couple of things. One, while I feel comfortable thinking theologically, that is, occasionally using the concept of God as one possible way of examining a situation, as in, where is God in this? I'm not necessarily fluent in the language of theology, which is to say, I found myself on more than one occasion reading an impenetrable passage from some theological text over and over again, only to find myself with no idea what the writer was talking about. And two, content warning, I am going to be using the word God a few more times in this sermon. But know that I do so as somebody who is primarily an atheist. But as I said, I'm okay using the concept of God to explore a subject, especially if the person I'm engaged with, Henry Nelson Wyman in this case, is using it. Creativity is at the heart of Wyman's theology. He defines God as the creative event that works through human history. God as creative event is that process of reorganization which generates new meanings, integrates them with the old, and endows each event as it occurs with a wider range of reference. By the way, that's from Martin Luther King Jr.'s doctoral dissertation, A Comparison of the Conceptions of God in the Thinking of Paul Tillich and Henry Nelson Wyman. King notes that while the creative event has a unitary character, it is made up of 4 sub-events. Emerging awareness of qualitative meaning through communication with other persons, integrating new meanings with one's previously acquired, expanding and enriching the appreciable world by a new structure of interrelatedness, and a widening and deepening of community. This is what excites me about Wyman's notion of the creative event. These 4 sub-events together can set in motion a range of possibilities, up to and including the creation of a better world. But in order to access this creative event, we need to be open to whatever those possibilities might be. And we do that through what Wyman called creative interchange. According to Professor Marvin C. Shaw, creative interchange is a certain kind of communication. It begins in the candid expression of one's unique personal perspective, and thus goes beyond the superficiality of much conversation. This perspective must be expressed without the desire to impress or to manipulate the other, so that it does not elicit a defensive or rejecting response. The one who hears must be free of self-preoccupation and not project feelings or interpretations onto what is said. If, in addition, the hearer does not cling to the present state of the self but is open to change, the new insight can be integrated, perhaps with modifications, into the mind And this addition of a new perspective or pattern of interpretation enlarges the mind and increases what it is able to feel and know. Since the speaker and the hearer now share something of each other, further creative interchange may occur more readily. Learning about creative interchange while I was in seminary had a huge impact on me, and it's been the motivation for most of the continuing education I've done since then. It's why I've participated in multiple circle process trainings, and it's why I became certified as a spiritual director. I truly do believe that when we express ourselves without the desire to impress or to manipulate the other, when we no longer cling to our present state but open ourselves to change, the appreciable world is expanded and enriched, and we become more capable of kindness and courage, compassion and sacrifice. And this is the possibility which gives me hope, that our congregations, no matter what size they may be, can help us access the creative event Wyman calls God. Give us the energy to act, to live as we think human beings should live, and in the face of all that is heartbreaking in this world, behave magnificently. As Priscilla Shumway shared in Choosing to Connect, we need to move beyond a sense of separation, of judgment between ourselves and others, and learn to hear the statements we agree with rather than those we disagree with. Both Shumway and Zinn would agree that in this infinite succession of presence, we can, with every act and choice we make, create a better world. What better place than a religious community to choose to go beyond the superficiality of much conversation and be truly present for one another, to listen to each other free of self-preoccupation and not project feelings or interpretations onto what is said. This is how we practice creative interchange. And by practicing creative interchange, we invite all the potential of the creative event into our lives. And by inviting the creative event into our lives, we widen and deepen our community and increase the possibility of together sending the spinning top of a world in a different direction. It isn't necessarily easy, though. The creative event starts with communication, but in this hyper-connected world where both information and disinformation are as close as the nearest device with internet connectivity, moments of creative interchange, of interpersonal connectivity are hard to come by. That's why I'm such an advocate for what Kay Lindahl calls the sacred art of listening, which happens to be the title of one of her books. Lindahl notes that listening is not a passive activity. It's not about being quiet or even hearing the words. It is an action, and it takes energy to listen. Listening is something we need to practice, like a spiritual practice. It shouldn't be surprising that the title of another one of Lindahl's books is Practicing the Sacred Art of Listening. Here are 3 daily practices that Lindahl suggests. 1. Silence. Spend at least 1 minute each day. Use intention to listen for God, source, wisdom. 2. Reflection. Take a deep breath before you respond. Listen to your soul. Get to know yourself. 3. Presence. Be mindful of each moment. Pay attention. Be with the person you are with. If you would indulge me, I'd like for us to try the first practice together. Let's spend a minute or so right now in silence. Find a position that's comfortable for you. Close your eyes if you'd like. Notice the space around you. Feel how you are inextricably connected to the earth directly beneath your body. Be aware of what it's like to be present in this moment. And listen. Thank you. Lindahl has some other suggestions for practicing the sacred art of listening. Notice when you choose to listen and when you choose not to listen. Notice what it's like to give the gift of listening to someone else and what it's like to receive it. Notice when you experience the art of listening, being a listening presence with another. Notice when you start to interrupt someone and what happens when you don't. Notice what happens when you stop speaking and you ask, is there anything else? Notice what happens when you let go of your agenda to be present with another. Finding Zin's quote helped me be more hopeful about the possibilities ahead of us. And it taught me that being hopeful is not foolishly romantic. This hope is reinforced by the belief that our congregations can be places where we together can learn to communicate with each other in such a way that creative interchange occurs, that it gives us the energy to act, and that together we can live now as we think human beings should live. In closing, I'd like to share the prayer Priscilla Shumway used to close her Braver, Wiser reflection. May we continue to become more mindful of that which connects us rather than that which separates us. May we always remember that the acts and choices we make are sacred as we work to create a better world.
Well, there was a lot there. And our congregation is full of very insightful people. And I love when we share what we're thinking. So I was wondering if we could have maybe a few minutes to share your reactions to what you just heard. And we'll pass around the microphone. Would anyone like to start? Perfect.
It dawned on me towards the end that source or God or whatever you think of, the higher self, it's always quiet and it's always listening to us, like never just blurting out and interrupting. And that just kind of brought me in a new place.
Anybody else?
I really appreciated the way that this talk invites us to be mindful as we communicate with others, and even to make the smallest changes, like refraining from judging already and letting our minds run when someone else is talking, and really just to be present and listen. To me, that sounds like a wonderful beginning, to truly listen to what is there rather than forming an opinion before the other person has finished their sentence.
I think for me, it was about finding the commonality and the similarities versus the differences. I think so often now, because the vast majority of the people here in Bowling Green are very conservative, and I don't always agree with some of their things, and I kind of go into that conversation already looking for those differences versus trying to just find where we are similar and kind of forming relationships and connections that way.
So I really appreciate this reading today and the opportunity to reflect upon it. And I was thinking about a conversation I had with Greg right before we walked in, and what was the teaching with that that moment. And he shared something with me. And after listening to this, I started asking myself, was I really there where this incredible human being came to me to share something? And did I really give of my heart and my full attention? And I don't think that I did. And I don't know, this isn't some big confession or anything, but I was so touched by this incredibly beautiful human being coming up to share with me something important. And after reading or listening to this, I thought, did I rise to my highest place? And so I am so grateful to be here today, because that gives me the opportunity to notice how I can bring that more fully in my moments. And I guess, and allow, even in sharing this with you, there is a place where my heart is just bursting open, because I have the experience of feeling that profound connection, and that connection that probably everyone is most hungry and starving for, which is that place of loving and being loved. And how do we do that best? We do that with each of us as a mirror of the other. And if my mirror's dirty, I'm going to have to polish that up.
I was thinking, so much of my training has taught me to be evidence-based as opposed to trying to be here just stuck in my head. But I think this is probably something that people who meditate, because of the silence that they experience, but when we're asked to do that, I became aware that in the silence, I could feel the calmness coming in. I could feel a chance for me to breathe, and I could think of all the wonderful changes that happens. It connects with our vagus nerve. It calms us down. It relaxes us, and that makes me think how I could see how much that quiet was so important, because by being calm, I could listen. I could receive this in without my filtering it out by something, I'm thinking I've got a doctor's appointment tomorrow, or I've got all these things that the monkey mind wants to feed into us. But that silence was extremely important to us. And was for me.
Some of you know we have a small group ministry going on with 10 people now. And as a plug, we're hoping to get one or more small groups together. But the thing I wanted to say about it is that over time, the small group is kind of a crucible for listening and being heard. And I think, excuse me, what he's talking about takes practice and it takes trust. And so I think to the degree that we can create environments, maybe smaller environments within the whole, it really helps you practice those skills.
Thank you. And building on that, Phill Lund mentioned his interest in pursuing those circles in his own ministry, his own pursuits for his study. In our small group ministry, as UUs and beyond UUism, there are practices that he's studied and learned, and we have available to us and guidance from the UA and other places. It's amazing to see in recent experience sort of how the structures that some of these circle guidance offers, and I can even say from my own behaviors, I witness, when I'm able to experience that, when I know I'm participating in that sort of circle design to allow space for others, and what a difference it makes in my ability to connect when I can shut my own self down.
Well, thank you for everyone that shared. It enriches our experience so much. We will now have an offering. This is the third Sunday, and our designee is the International Center of Kentucky. It's a refugee resettlement agency based in Bowling Green. Started in 1981 by Marty Deputy, the International Center has helped resettle over 10,000 refugees, victims of human trafficking, and immigrants from 30 countries around the world. Working closely with the Department of State and the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants, the International Center ensures that people have a support structure that enables them to fully integrate and thrive in the United States. Thank you for these gifts. May it do all the good we hope it will do. Alrighty, it's time for community news, of which there is plenty. Connie, would you like to come up first and make your announcement, please?
Good morning. We're back into the fall season now, and the Hospitality Committee met today, and we're going to jump right in and have a potluck next Sunday. And we'd like it to be harvest themed since the gardens are winding down, so it can be from the farmer's market, your garden, your neighbors, or the grocery store. And so plan on that, and we'll put it in the newsletter. And then again on October 22nd, which is, I believe, the fourth Sunday in October, and put your thinking caps on and what's your favorite healthy recipe. So we'll have that. And I would just mention we discussed game night, and we may be waiting until January. But if there's anyone interested in helping organizing that, especially some of our teenagers maybe, let them know and contact me or Becky. So see you next week at the potluck.
Today after the service, I know that you all can read that, and this was all in the newsletter. Gail has a class on tarot cards down in the fellowship hall. Saturdays, there's a Zen group at 9 a.m. in the fellowship hall. There is a walk for suicide prevention Sunday, September 24th at 1. Is anyone interested in making a team here at church? I would be interested if you were. Yes? Okay, fantastic. We'll communicate. Great, thank you. Poll workers are needed in Warren County. We can't give them an excuse for having fewer polling places than is necessary. So if you can possibly help out, that would be great. John Thomerson is going to perform at the International Festival. The Nature Conservancy will be at Lost River Cave this Tuesday. And we have a plant sale in October. Again, all these were in the email update, but in case you didn't get that far, there they are again. Thank you. If you have any questions about membership, please contact someone on our membership team. If the membership team has anyone present, can you raise your hand? Perfect. Great. So see these nice ladies over at the fellowship hall. And we have one more hymn, number 1074 in the teal hymnal. Please stand if you're willing and able. This is.
We come from the fire, clean in the fire, go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water, go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, go back on the mountain, go back to the mountain, turn the world around. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Oh, who I am, see who know who you are. We one another clearly, who we know who we are. Do you know who I am? Do you know who you are? See one another clearly, do you know who we are? Do you know who I am? Do you know who you are? See one another clearly, do you know who we are? Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life. Oh, so is life.
Thank you for that rousing music. And John will give us our last reading, please.
With faith in the creative powers of life, the Quakers speak not of a worship service, but of their meeting, hence this benediction. With faith in the creative powers of life, with hope for the future of life in this world, with love for all others who share this life with us, let us go forward together in peace. Our meeting has ended. Let our service begin.
After the service, you're welcome to join us in the fellowship hall for snacks and conversation, and I hope to see you there. We will now bid farewell to those who have joined us online. We hope you found this service meaningful, and we invite you to join us again. Be well and go in peace.